Hello, 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 Reinventors tribe. This is your host, Sahar, and ready from the Reinvent Yourself to Greatness with Sahar podcast. And today, I know I always say this, but I promise it's true. We have a treat for you. My guest today is Jacqueline Gonzalez-Reyes, and she is oh my God, right? She is, oh my God, that's all I can say. So I'm going to introduce her to you briefly, but I'm going to also ask her to introduce herself. So Jacqueline is an award-winning dean and an education consultant. Her website is www.jgrconsultancy.com. I will ask her also to repeat that, and I'm going to put it in the description of this episode. We are on season 3 of the year 2021. And actually, this is our episode 2 of the year 2021. Just a background, how I met Jaclyn. I met Jaclyn. She was part of the multicultural leadership, executive leadership for women at a USC program. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you the gift I'm giving you today, Jacqueline Gonzalez-Reyes. Thank you so much for being here, Jacqueline.
Hi, Sahar. Thank you for having me. I'm so blessed to be sharing this day, this morning with you, and a little bit about myself. I'm Jacqueline Gonzalez-Reyes. I'm an award-winning dean and educational consultant. I help other private and charter school executives be able to move out of some of the challenges that they may have, such as operations and retention, maybe sometimes even cultural differences. So I help school executives be able to assess these challenges and bring their teams, their academics, but also be able to stand out during digital learning. So I'm very excited to be here. I think, when I think about the word reinvent, it cannot be that much more powerful. You cannot find another word that is that much powerful. I think that every opportunity, as you know, it's January 13 right now, 352 opportunities that we are now given to be able to create.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you said about reinvent, and I have been putting together the Reinvent Yourself to Greatness for the last 3 years, but it didn't mean as much as this year. I'm looking, like you just said, at 2021 as a rebirth year, as hope after what we went through COVID-21. So I want to ask you, how did COVID-19 affected your decision to start this?
Yeah, so I have to say, I've always been attracted to creating and being in collaboration, but very, very aware of social injustices that may sometimes be happening in our communities. The school where I work at currently as a dean of students, I got to see firsthand. There was so much information that was coming at lightning speed, but yet the translation and the changes that were happening so fast there was no opportunity to be able to articulate that in a timely fashion, but also there were different variables. People were losing their jobs. The kids where I work at were at high risk of their parents getting sick because they were the people that were cleaning the houses, or they were also the people that were delivering Amazon to our doors so that we can have a hot meal or our groceries. So in about 2 weeks, it became very clear that there was a disproportion of resources who was able to have access to education. And also, how were the parents going to be able to also continue to sustain and support their kid when they were in a survival mindset? So I think it was a morning in actually so today actually marks 10 months of remote learning. I think any educator that is listening to this will never forget March 13. We were, myself personally, I was greeting the kids goodbye, getting ready to say, I'll see you in 2 weeks. You know, and I'm from California, so it never snows. I know that from my undergrad, snow days existed. So here we knew this was something different, but no one ever estimated 10 months later. And I feel that even in March, the next week of March was spring break, and I made it a point to have myself and my team, as many as I could, work through the spring break, because it was so pivotal to get our stakeholders and our parents' attention that we were going to try to get as many people enrolled so that they can have internet. But as anything, there's hotspots, and then how is that working out if the kid is by themselves because mom is working? So I would say that by April, I made it a point to even launch a program, and it was a programming in Spanish so that I can take accountability, not just during work hours, but after work hours, so that I can deliver that information that was so necessary for the most vulnerable community that was really being affected heavily.
And what's the name of that program, and does it still exist?
You know, Tecito con Jaclyn, which means tea with Jaclyn, was basically, it was founded again in my kitchen floor. I said, I was pacing around on that Sunday morning, and I said, I have a phone and I have access to a platform, and that was Facebook. And I turned the on button, and a month later, it became a studio. You know, Tecito with Jacqueline has been able to reach different countries. We were in Peru, we were in El Salvador, we were in India. So it was such a great experience to have the community platform. For 2021, my decision has been to further expand our capacity, and we're going to be actually entering with podcasts. So Tecito with Jacqueline is now going to be available in podcasts. Because I want to acknowledge my school executives that I'm working with to make sure that they know that we're not in this by ourselves. You know, leading schools can be very lonely. The questions and the demands and the decisions need to be made sometimes at lightning speed too. So making sure that everybody knows that, hey, we're all going through this. It's stressful, but we don't have to do it by ourselves. It's definitely a core value that we want to display in 2021, and that we look forward for it to ripple positively to not just our school executives, but also our faculty that we know that are in the front lines, and that are, you know, I always say that if a student feels loved, then they're going to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Reinventors, I didn't lie. I told you you're in for a treat. Okay. So, Jacqueline, if this is not reinvent yourself, what is? And I always call you BB, beauty and brain, right? I mean, you guys look at her and you can just say that she is one. I don't really get impressed with a lot of people, not because I feel like I'm whatever. It's not because of that, but because a lot of people talk the talk, but don't walk the walk. And with Jaclyn, from the first day we met, she walked the talk and she talked the walk, like I say. That's why Jaclyn, I have immense respect for you, specifically that I do believe in my heart that education is key to a better future. And now all, like you said, this, you know, the communities, the children that are at risk, you know, we can maybe change their whole future, you know, the communities that are at disadvantage, you taking care of that says a lot about you. So I wanted to ask you, what are the challenges? We host women here or men that basically faced a lot of challenges for a great cause, like the one that you have, and that always came on top, that yes, when they led through adversity. You are one of the greatest leaders in doing that. So can you share with us what were the obstacles that you met?
Yes, I first want to take a moment to, what you just mentioned it means so much to me, because you are also one of the greatest coaches in the country. I have first and foremost been able to work with you and see different programmings, and I always leave your programmings knowing you're very detail oriented. You admire the people that are there, their time, you respect it. And I think that it's just very beautiful to have this synergy or this flow. So I feel the same way about you too.
Thank you.
And I would say, Sahar, challenges. I almost want to say that I wish I can have you every morning and repeat to me how awesome you think the work is. Because there is days and many times, I would say sometimes 50% of the days, where it seems like you gotta be able to put your sleeves up. And I would say sometimes the challenges are making sure that you have that inner voice that is loud enough that says, this is necessary. You are a change agent. Go back and see how many times have you been able to impact a program or a community, and own it.
Yes.
And take space, Jaclyn.
Yes.
So I go and I make sure that every decision I make, there's 3 different things that I'm always thinking of. Is it creative? Does it keep me creating? Does it keep my team creative? Does it have the potential for growth for myself, for my team? And it does it also allow us to look at numbers of improvement? And if many of the times those 3 answers we are able to say yes to those 3 questions, then we automatically just say, if we go and we are able to start working on this project and it doesn't go as expected, we will learn from it.
Yes.
One of the biggest things I've learned is that, to be able to impact communities, I've been able to be part of 7 different startups. They've been businesses, they've been nonprofits, and they've been schools. Where I worked at that summer of 2014, there was no building. And I remember having my first interview and saying, are you opening like a preschool? I just want to confirm. And the response was like, no, we want to open an entire school. So my next question was, okay, what does that look like? How many classrooms would bring us about a teacher? And they said 14 kids. So I remember from June to August, every time from kinder all the way to 8th grade, we open a school. It has not been done. It's not a type of way that a lot of our school executives, it's a lot of headache. The first year in itself was, how do we incorporate all these different age groups, 6-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 14-year-olds. But it was also about really putting into action what we wanted to do. Back then, it was the mission that I had, really put my mind to, was that I wanted to provide community members a school that they would be able to have a voice.
Yes.
So they had a voice to, how does the food look like? We had the vendors show up and present. What colors should the uniform look like? So I had said yes to that thought process, and also collaboration with families. So we had a wait list by August with no building. And I'm still serving as a dean in a 1920 building. Sometimes it leaks, but our retention continues to be strong. And I think that one of the biggest takeaways there is that it really has to do with the teams. How are we cultivating teams? How are kids, or how are our faculty, or how is just any human being feeling like they could take ownership of their contribution? They know how their contribution is affecting our daily operations, and they want to be part of it, because they really strongly believe that they're the change agents to their community, to their household. But it's always, like I said, there is many times where I have to remind myself that I'm not always going to get a yes. Sometimes, people can automatically assume that my passion, it's aggressive because I'm a woman, but probably not the same response that one of our males get. So I've learned that it's never personal, that it's always an invitation, that it's always an invitation and an opportunity to say, I've loved for us to recreate that space. And sometimes it doesn't have to be talked out loud, but rather small acts really confirm that we're way stronger when we work together.
Absolutely. And I always say little imperfect actions are 1,000 times better than waiting for a big perfect action, because I don't believe in perfection. I don't believe that there is something called perfection in this world. There is excellence, don't get me wrong. But perfection, even perfection, as I always say, by definition, means that you need to release something and then perfect it. Jacqueline, knowing you personally, I know that one of your biggest motivation is being a mother of a 10-year-old. Like, look at you, I just mentioned it and you're all smiles. So you want to talk about that? Because I know that this is a big part of how you connect specifically to mothers in disfranchised communities.
Yes.
So can you share a little about that?
Yes, for sure. Yes, it does light me up. It lights me up. I always say that, I have to have like a picture of, to me, he's my prince. And, to me, what a prince entails is, my son, he's like my co-creator in the sense of sometimes some of my most creative projects. We just talked about Tecito with Jacqueline. He was the person behind the scenes that was getting the tea ready. So very small gestures that really confirmed to me, Mom, I see you. I know what you're trying to do. And at 10 years old, and that's really, I think, what continues to drive me, because if a 10-year-old understands that way of communication or response, then it challenges me as a mother to keep really growing into ensuring that other kids have an opportunity to feel seen or to feel loved. But at a personal level, I would say, at the age of 10 months, I made the decision with my son. I stared at his face and I said, I would love to give an example of a one parent household. And I would love that example to be powerful. I would love to recreate it. My son has a bit darker pigmentation than me. So I remember back then, if he wanted a candy at the store, I'll sometimes have other cashiers say, "Is he lost?" And I remember thinking, he came out of my oven. You were just not there, but it was in Chicago, Illinois. He came out. But as the time progressed, I think really what it has taught me is that, I know how it feels. I know that today, particularly, my smoke detector came up at 4:30. So I really had to figure out what the plan is. And usually this plan involves Googling it. So you have to Google it. You got to stay calm.
Yes.
You got to Google it. You got to stay calm. But I also must take in consideration that breakfast has to be done. My emails need to be reviewed. At the same time, my son needs to have, and it just happens to be this weekend, he had a wrist injury. So now mom duties plus 25% of his capacity of walking around like a 10-year-old has been a little bit affected. So I think just in general, being able to know that there's I'm very blessed. I get to choose right now where I want to live, and the environment and the community, in the school my son attends. But I know firsthand, my parents, they put us through private education, but it was through the love of learning and knowing that education was the way to really continue social mobility. But I would always say that I remember my first year out of college when I saw my paycheck and realized that it had surpassed my own parents' paycheck. And I will never, ever, ever forget that moment of feeling blessed and knowing that if I had been given this opportunity and if I continue to be seeked out as a thought leader, that I will continue to make a commitment to really remember that it is a different story when your needs are not being met. And there has been times throughout the years where I've had to really ask myself, I really would like the extra sleep, but I had to wake up and there was breakfast and I have a conference and I'm writing a book and, you know, I really have really learned in recreating how does parenthood look like, really think about the stressors, really expand myself and know how to have enough time to be a mother, but also an entrepreneur, but also a school leader, but also a social life. And that process has not been easy. And it continues to humble me when I see any other one-parent households, but I also get to see, you know, it could be an immigrant experience, just like my parents' experience, or it could be a person of color. I wake up and I get reminded of that every day, and it just fuels me. You can tell my voice changes. It just completely fuels me. So I think you know, you actually, Sahar, are the person that really instilled this in me last year, and that was that we celebrate our uniqueness. We don't, you know, when we say we're colorblind, that's not true.
We are not colorblind.
We were not colorblind. You know, we must say we're different and we must be strong and be at a point where we feel comfortable to say my uniqueness is able to really unite communities. You know, I can be this morning, I can be serving the community in Koreatown, but this afternoon I can be with the South Bay Businesswomen Association. And it's totally different dynamics. We're talking about, you know, when we talk about some, even I always look at numbers, and when I look at the numbers that some of our parent groups can be raising in one community, it could be 14,000, and many times those 14,000 are allocated for their kids to do a science excursion, where at another school it could be 180,000. So that's a really big distinction. But I will always say that going into groups and knowing that they're still strength-based. When I go to the 14,000 group, I want to elevate their resilience, their persistency, their ability to say, I didn't have this, I want my kid to have this. And it's a really clear distinction. I want more. Please show me how to provide more, and I'm willing to put the work. So there's a beauty to that too. And I think that sometimes just acknowledging that and just saying, hey, I see a lot of beauty in your resilience and your strength, that sometimes many of us are surprised or don't know how to approach it.
Yes.
Oh, what if the person is going to get embarrassed? Or what if the person is going to think I'm looking down at them? And many of the times we're the person that is blocking ourselves from making those connections, those genuine connections.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you are actually embracing your uniqueness, being a single mother, being a woman, being a person of color, being a professional, being an educator, being a mother. I mean, and this is all part of our intersectionality that we really need to start looking at. We are not just one thing, especially women. We are so many things together that we need to peel the layers to get to the bottom of it. And maybe we will never get to the bottom of it because we have so many layers, and we can make them all work towards us. So I want to ask you, in your own words, maybe a very short phrase, 2 or 3 words. Jacqueline Gonzalez-Reyes, what is your definition of success?
It's a great word. You know, my definition of success is feeling peace. That feeling peace, being able to really be continue to have the opportunities to continue to create. I think that when you're provided a platform or you create yourself a platform to create, you know, it's just limitless, because it's a craft. It's like the doctors, every time they do a surgery. You know, they also have had years of expertise there. So I would say that, you know, being able, you know, of course, all the things like wealth, that's also, I think, very, very important. Sometimes it doesn't get talked about as much, because, you know, you're selfish. Hey, what are you going to do without that money? But
I'll
really,
help more people.
I have seen amazing things happen in boardrooms, and the ability to surround yourself and be part of that boardroom and represent yourself first and foremost, but also your community and your families. I think it's very powerful. So success, I do define it as, you know, having that opportunity and like an evolution of constantly feeling more and more at peace at who you're becoming, because I don't think we stay stagnant.
No.
I think we're constantly, like you mentioned about the metaphor of the layer being, you know, every onion being peeled. I would be a little bit worried if we stood stagnant.
Absolutely.
So I would say my success continues to look like, you know, and by peace, my peace looks also very, very creative, but also surrounded with a lot of smiles and just genuine, like love, that we're part of this world and that we know we're contributing to it.
And Jacqueline, I know you personally, and I can attest to the fact that your heart is embedded in service. Jacqueline, again, I'm going to repeat Jacqueline's website. It's www.jgrconsultancy.com. I will put the link in the description of this episode. Jacqueline, before we wrap up this awesome episode, and I'm so glad that you are at the beginning of this year, so that makes my bench very high, you know, in who we get after that. So I want you to share few words of wisdom for our reinventors, our listeners, and if you can do it part in English, part in Spanish for our Spanish speaking base, that would be awesome.
Sure. You know, this week particularly, I was thinking about the many times we think to ourselves that we're getting older, or that it's not perfect timing. And we keep going around and around in circles. It's just not the right timing. And I have to say that everything that has been in your past, you know, again, is happening for you. So no one is delayed. I will continue to say this message. No one is delayed. You know, there's no point to comparing ourselves. Oh, well, this happened, this milestone happened at this age, or you're getting a little bit older, or you're getting a little bit, you're young. I don't believe in that. You know, when I've had people tell me you're fairly young to been part of different startups, you know, there's this grin I automatically get. Because I know of the hard work and the consistency that is taken and the discipline to be able to live those experiences. So I guess I would say that, Sahar, it's so important to continue to be rooted in that. You know, when we go into those thoughts, there's a level of discomfort that we're feeling. And really, we just gotta own again our uniqueness and take space with it. When we make a mistake, that was different. And then debrief about it. And then take away, there's always going to be something you can take away and use for another project or for another collaboration, that idea that you might have. Para todos los que nos acompañan hoy, Mi nombre es Jacqueline Gonzalez-Reyes y estoy muy entusiasmada de estar aquí con ustedes, ¿verdad? Platicando, ¿verdad? Una de las cosas que creo que es muy común es el simple hecho que siempre estamos como persiguiendo el tiempo, que a veces el tiempo nos dejó, que tenía que pasar esto, que ya tenemos 10 años después, o que estamos muy jóvenes para tratar esa nueva proyecto o colaborar con otra persona. Pero realmente creo que cada experiencia que hemos podido tener siempre ha sido una experiencia para que uno pueda usar en cada día, ¿verdad? ¿Qué aprendimos de esto? Si no nos salió todo bien, ¿qué aprendimos de eso? Pero realmente saber que fue valentía que se usó cuando tratamos de no estar en una forma de decir que no puedo, pero una forma que sí puedo, y cuando no me salen bien las cosas, estoy consciente que voy a tratar de movilizarme para que me salga hasta mejor la próxima vez.
Claro que sí. Muchísimas gracias, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, I don't know what to tell you. Honestly, I mean, your story is fascinating. And your story is on your website, right?
That's correct. Yes, my website, that's www.jgrconsultancy.com. We would love to continue to work with different school executives from all over the country to continue to make sure that students are being retained, and that, there's different programming that is happening so that on the operational level too, they're able to bring their brands together, their academics together, but be able to stand out during this time of digital learning. We owe it to ourselves to be able to sometimes say, hey, I need help. I think I know who's the right person that is going to be able to support me during this transition. But we also owe it to the kids and to the families that have entrusted in us that trust and being able to lead during these times that, as we all know, are very unprecedented, particularly also for the education setting.
Absolutely. Jaclyn, thank you so much for spending this morning with us here. And again, to reach Jaclyn is www.jgrconsultancy.com. I really can't thank you enough for being here today, Jaclyn. You are the proof of what I always say, that out of every crisis, there is a call. And you found your calling, and you are being of service. And you're not just saying, I want to impact people, but you're actually taking action every single day. Thank you so much for being here, Jaclyn.
It's been my pleasure, Sahar. Thank you for the gift of just continuing to impact people's lives by just allowing them again to see the beauty that their soul and their past experiences give them, so that they can continue to reach their better self. So thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. The inventors, we will have to leave now. But remember, as I always say, we all have a genius inside of us. It just takes time to get it out, but we need to work on that to get it out. We all have a light inside of us that we need to get out, not only to lighten our path, but also to lighten the path of others along the way. When we pay it forward, we are helping the ones behind us, and the ones behind us will help the one behind them. And this is why we are created on this earth, to be of impact, like Jaclyn said, and to be of service. My dear Reinventors tribe, till I see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, stay active, and stay impacting people. Till we meet again. This is Sahar and Radi, and I will see you soon.